Good morning, Intenders.
Good morning.
Welcome and welcome back to Morning Intentions. Today is Friday, April 3rd. Normally, I would be saying good morning, reflectors, but we're not going to do a Reflection Friday this week because it's only the first few days of April. We're continuing our journey with codependency, and it feels like we're just getting started for the month, so we're not going to stop for gas quite yet. So, we're going to continue on from our discussion yesterday about the recovery process from high functioning codependency. And like everything that we struggle with or we're trying to recover from or fix or change, the first step in solving a problem is to admit that you have one. And that's why whenever we have the reflection questions that get us to look inside, such as yesterday's, am I dealing with anticipatory anxiety? We never want that to be a judgment. We never want that to be a source of shame or guilt or to say, well, look how bad I am. I'm a high functioning codependent. I have anticipatory anxiety and I'm just all messed up and I'll never be fixed. We never want things to go that direction. We just want to get to this place where we say, wow, I am dealing with this. Now what do I do? We have to admit that we got a problem in order to solve it.
And she speaks to that part of anticipatory anxiety in the second paragraph of page 142. She says, anticipatory anxiety operates on such a low volume in daily life that we might not even realize it's there. And so when we're thinking about why it's important to talk about these things and bring them into the light, so to speak, we must do that. Otherwise, we're just going to normalize our behaviors and our way of thinking because we don't know any different. But once we take it from the unconscious level and we bring it into the conscious, meaning unconscious, we're just worrying and planning and doing all this stuff, then we bring it into the conscious and we realize what we're doing. We see ourselves for what we truly are and how we're really showing up. And then we can say, there is a better way. Maybe I don't know that better way right now, but if I reach out for support and get the proper tools, I will.
Another way I like to share the same concept that you're sharing is that unhealthy habits and ways of being thrive in darkness. And when
They
we
do.
shine the light of love on them, that's when they can be healed. And that's when healing happens.
I'm so happy that you shared that, Ada, because it's not that there's something inherently wrong with us. It's that whether it's another situation or another way of showing up that we're not really focusing on this month, or it is high functioning codependency, once we understand that we have experienced trauma and that we can take personal responsibility and that we can heal, and then we start looking at how it has shown up and how it's shown up for us specifically and looked at these traits that we have, well, then we can do something about them. We want to concentrate during this section of the book, feeling our feelings. And she has, on that same page, 141 or 142, she has an ending paragraph that goes like this. Being present requires us to feel all the feelings. And anticipating, planning, and doing spares us from sitting with our feelings because we're in action. I want to make sure we talk about this because we can just be busying ourselves and busying ourselves and busying ourselves because we have such anxiety that we can't slow down. But then she says, like what we're saying is once we realize this doesn't have to be our reality. As we acknowledge the role of low-level anxiety, we begin to see the full picture and have the opportunity to stop worrying. She uses the phrase future tripping and be more present in what is actually happening. So I want us to think about during our podcast today, how busy do we make ourselves so that we don't have to slow down and feel our feelings? How busy do we think we, quote unquote, have to be? Because we meet folks every day in our line of work where, this is what I do for my family, or this is what I do here, or this is what I do there. I can't slow down and feel my feelings. I mean, we've literally heard that probably 3 times last week. No, no, you actually can slow down. Does that mean that you will be able to do all that you have been doing? No, but that's the point.
And that's something you speak from experience with.
Right. But something has got to change. Otherwise, you will burn out. You will get to this place where you can't go on. You can get a sickness. You can have such nervous system dysregulation that it makes it hard for you to function. That's our struggle here. That's our challenge, because people will look us in the eye and say, well, they can't do their life differently. I mean, we've had people say to us, well, we can't have boundaries. We just can't have boundaries. That's the way it's going to be. Well, okay, then I guess you're signing up to be miserable for the rest of your life, because if you don't have boundaries, you will be. But it's hard to see that when you're in it, because I know I can't do this. No, I can't do this. No, I can't do it any differently. Well, yes, you can. And let's start just trying maybe one little thing. And one little thing here that she's pointing out is that if we're in fear, if we're in anger, if we have a lot of rage, if we have a lot of grief, there's something called a secondary emotion. And a secondary emotion obscures the more difficult feelings that are going on. So we can be totally in fear and say, well, I can't slow down because if I slow down this, that, and the other. Well, what's under that? What's underneath that fear? What's underneath our rage? That's what we have to look at, because that's where we're going to get to what's really running the show. Terry Cole puts it this way: when you recognize when anxiety is the secondary emotion, you have the opportunity to peel back our protective layers and explore and acknowledge what is actually driving our behaviors. Typically, the secondary emotion is what's getting our attention: the anxiety, the anger, the fear. But what's the real thing that's going on? And that's where, in this next section, she talks about naming and identifying secondary emotions.
I find it helpful if I give myself permission to not change a thing. I say, okay, recognize it without the pressure of thinking we have to change it.
I think that's so helpful, Ada, because that's what tripped me up for years. I thought if I recognized it, I didn't think I could do anything about it. Well, what was the point of recognizing it? But what you're saying is just look at it.
And you don't need to do anything about it, because then even there's the anticipatory anxiety of, well, if I look at it, I have to do something.
Right.
Let's just look at it and see what happens. You don't have to change any action. You don't have to change any behavior. Let's just look at it and see what comes up. Even in coaching, people can come in with a lot of pressure, like, oh, if I look at something too deeply, that means I have to change it. We're just going to see what happens. We're not going to say, you're doing this, you're naughty, and you better shape up and change it. Otherwise, your whole life is ruined. That's not the attitude or even the energy that we want to have with any personal development work.
That'll just keep us stuck.
Of course, because that's scary.
Yes, it is.
Not only because it may involve big changes, but it's also scary because of the judgment we can put on ourselves. Well, look what I did. Look how messed up I am. Look how dysfunctional or dysregulated I am. We're all doing the best we can. We all have different coping strategies, like Annette shared earlier in the week. High functioning codependency is just one of them. It's not the only one, it's just one of many. And if we can look at these things without the pressure of shame and judgment and guilt, if we can look at these things without the pressure of, now I have to make big sweeping changes in my life or even little changes, let's take all that pressure away and say, let's just acknowledge and leave it alone. That's all we need to do.
And that's a wonderful first step. Before we say goodbye for the weekend, I would like to read for all of us this section called Back to You, because it'll give us something to soak in and maybe start processing for our weekend. Would that be okay with you, Ada?
That would be great. Thank you so much for being our reader. You've read a lot through our journey of too much, and I appreciate that. I love just being able to sit back and listen and let it soak in.
Okay, so if you want to follow along, I'm on page 143. And remember, this isn't a book review, it's a book study. We're really trying to study what Terry Cole is teaching. It's the section called Back to You, Naming and Identifying Secondary Emotions. One of the most powerful tools in emotional regulation is simply identifying and naming the emotion you are feeling. Often we misidentify secondary emotions, those that are fueled by other deeper feelings, as primary emotions. Take anger, for instance. It often masks other, more vulnerable emotions such as hurt or sadness. Many people find it easier to express anger because it conveys a sense of strength, whereas acknowledging feelings of hurt or sadness can make us feel exposed or weak. To enhance emotional understanding and resilience, it's crucial to delve deeper, asking, what emotions are fueling my anger? This introspective approach helps in accurately identifying and addressing the root emotions, leading to more authentic and constructive emotional expression. List 5 different emotions you have felt recently. Be specific. Rather than using broad words like bad or good, use more precise terms like sad, hopeless, ashamed, or anxious. Do you allow yourself to feel a full range of emotions, or do you stifle them? Be sure to expand your answers. I would like us to focus on noticing, is anger the mask that I use most? Is anxiety the mask that I use most? Is sadness the mask I use most? I mean, what is the safe feeling for us? Because many people feel safe being angry because then they don't have to look at anything else underneath. Many of us can say, oh, I just feel so anxious and I'm just so anxious and I'm just running around anxious. Well, then that's preventing you from going in and saying, whoa, what else is really going on there? What's the primary emotion? And it can be scary and you might need support. So if you need your therapist, your counselor, your coach to help you, please reach out. But this is the first step. I do believe, and that's why she has it in chapter 7, the first chapter of the recovery, is we have to know what we're feeling. And then add on what Ada is sharing is you don't have to say, okay, now I've got to do something about it. All we're saying is let's just start noticing. Let's just start noticing. When I feel anxious, if I just stop, what's really under there is disappointment, overwhelm, loneliness. Could be that. And that's where our work in nonviolent communication comes in.
So for today and for this weekend, we'll all be working on what Annette just shared, listening and noticing without needing to change anything.
And without judgment.
And of course, without judgment. Thank you so much for joining us today and this week. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you Monday.
See you then.